Yo, welcome everyone. Welcome to the place to be. I am your camp counselor, your camp director, your leader, the best to ever talk about horror. Well, self-proclaiming, but it's me, your boy, Walterdoom, back for another episode. What am I saying? Another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. Yes. Hey, I mean, if you guys been keeping up with the show, y'all know there's a few changes here and there. I mean, I don't know if you guys can really see it or hear it, I should say, because you can't see this. This is only an audio. But yeah. So if you guys notice now, I mean, we got some background music. Hey. Okay, I'm gonna stop acting up. Got some background music, got some new sound for the opening. Even closing out with the opener. Now we got my homeboy Freddy at the end because y'all know how much I like that line. Oh my god, let's hear that one more time. Yeah, you guys know how much I love that line. But yeah, we just had to kind of change it up a bit. You know, change is good. Also, we had to say goodbye to the Scream. I mean, it was here for its short-lived 4 episodes, but hey, I mean, it's a starter. We're trying to do different things, big things over here. But before we jump into the episode, let's actually give one more little last hoorah, or I guess in a way a goodbye, but not really a goodbye because we might use the sound again somewhere in later episodes. But let's go ahead and say goodbye to the Scream. Alright, so that was the Scream. So let's get into this. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? It's been a while. I know by the time you hear this, I mean, we're already, like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks in? Well, probably 3 weeks if this episode comes out real late. That's all depending on me. But, yeah, we're pretty much well enough into October, people. It's Halloween season, the best season of them all. Best reasons to listen to this podcast right now. If you're somebody that really isn't into horror but want to get into the Halloween spirit. I mean, yeah, that's what we do over here. I don't know how many of you guys are really planning on doing anything this Halloween season. I personally don't have anything that really planned or anything like that. But if you guys are planning to go Halloween, well, to a Halloween party, I mean, hey, turn up. Hopefully, guys, you got your costumes out there, your costume ideas. Hopefully, you guys get that. Me, myself, I mean, if I'm going to a Halloween party or anything Halloween related, I don't care where I'm at, as long as I'm wearing a costume. I'm stuck on a couple of ideas. I'm either trying to go as like a mumble rapper. I don't know what kind of mumble rapper, just any type of mumble rapper that you probably hear on SoundCloud or whatever, as an idea for myself. Or if not that, maybe Denzel Curry's Clout Cobain clown in the video. I don't know how many of you guys actually seen that video, but it's a really interesting video. I mean, he's in there with this clown makeup, and it's pretty basic. I mean, he wears like this striped shirt, well, long sleeve shirt, just black pants. I mean, the video's in black and white, so it's probably going to be difficult to find like a specific striped shirt like that. But that was the second idea, and the third one was Art the Clown. If you guys been paying attention, I mean, you guys know Terrifier is definitely one of my top favorite movies from this year that I've watched, and it's definitely a costume that I really would like to portray, just to be creepy like that. Just imagine some dude just in an Art the Clown costume, just smiling at you, pointing, and just doing these mind laughs and what have you. I mean, my God, it'll creep somebody out. Especially if you're afraid of clowns. But yeah, I'm stuck on those three ideas, and I don't know which one I'm gonna go with. But other than that, I mean, hopefully you guys, this October is going well. I mean, right now we have changing of the seasons over here in California. I mean, yeah, now it's like starting to feel a lot more wintry. Well, not wintry, but more like fall during the night. Because during the day, we're still dealing with the hot ass weather, which I love, but not too much hot. Just right. Just right type of weather, you know. All right, but anyway, yeah. We're dealing with that type of weather. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there wherever you are. And hopefully whatever you guys decide to do, if you guys do decide to go out and party it up on Halloween, hey, go ahead and do it and just be safe out there. But if you're not doing that, you guys came to the right place, because I'm your boy with the movies. This month, I am really trying to watch like cult classic movies and B horror movies to kind of compile a list on the week of Halloween. And just to kind of give you guys a 7-day type Halloween list, if that makes any type of sense. So right now I'm going to talk about a cult classic. If you guys didn't catch my teaser intro, but yes, we're going to talk about the greatest camp of them all. We're not talking about Crystal Lake. We're talking about Camp Arawak. If you guys don't know what Arawak is, we're going to be spending some time with my girl, Angela Baker. Still lost? I mean, how else can I say it? We're going to talk about Sleepaway Camp, you guys. Yes, Sleepaway Camp. Now, I don't know how many of you guys actually seen Sleepaway Camp. My experience actually watching Sleepaway Camp, I actually watched the second one before I watched the first one. And the only reason why I watched the second one is because the first one wasn't on Netflix. Netflix strikes again. Laugh at my moment, Chucky. Yeah, I mean, fell on me, right? Yeah, when I watched the second one, I really didn't like the second one at all. And I watched the second one and the third one, and I really don't remember much of the third one. I might end up watching it sometime later on this week. But yeah, the second one was terrible to me. I was like, what the hell is this crap? Until I seen a video, I believe it was on Watch Mojo or Looper or some, I can't remember what YouTube channel it was. No plug, of course. But I saw a video and they were talking about Sleepaway Camp. And I was like, hey, I seen that movie. Now, to warn you guys, today is going to be a lot of spoiler alerts. So if you're somebody that doesn't want to get the movie spoiled for you, you might want to click off this video or go to the end where I actually suggest some movies for you to watch. That was so lame. But anyway, yeah, so yeah, just spoiler alerts for you guys, just giving you a fair warning. But once again, this shouldn't actually deter you away from watching the movie. So what I hear about the spoiler, well, not the spoiler, but the plot twist at the end was Angela Baker was a boy. Now, that's the one thing that interests me into watching this movie in the first place. Because I was like, okay, I didn't get that from the second one. The second one kind of suggested that she was all girl. I didn't know she was a boy, and they never really hinted towards her being a boy. And sad enough, they actually did, but I didn't really pay attention to the storyline too much. Actually, recently when I watched Sleepaway Camp 2, well, actually part of it, because I didn't finish it, they actually talked about what happened in Sleepaway Camp 1, which I didn't understand at first, because at the time when I first watched Sleepaway Camp 2, I never seen Sleepaway Camp 1. So I really had some catching up to do. So after hearing about like the plot twist to this movie, I began to be more intrigued now to kind of see what this movie was about. Fortunately, Netflix did eventually get Sleepaway Camp 1, and I was very grateful to actually see it. And I liked it. It is definitely a cult classic. But sadly enough today, we're not going to spend the time talking about what's right about the movie, or how much I really liked the movie, or what I thought was so great about the movie, because that's just boring. Today, we're going to deconstruct everything and talk about what the hell was wrong with this movie. Because as much of a cult classic as it is, there's a lot of things that are wrong with the movie. Now, I have nothing against cult classics, but I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows a cult classic is definitely a movie that certain people follow, like a group of people only follow. Like movies that have cult classics is like Hellraiser. I do not like the Hellraiser series. And I'm being honest, and I've been blunt about this for the longest. I mean, if you've been listening to this channel for a while, you know I have a big distaste for Hellraiser, except for Hellraiser Inferno and Hellraiser Bloodline. Those are the only two movies that I really do like. But as far as like the other Hellraiser movies, I did not care, especially the last one. I can't remember what the name of it was, but that one was really awful. Just for the simple fact, it went the route of using so much CGI, it was ridiculous. Not to mention that they didn't use the same dude for Pinhead, as they've been using since many years, in various years. Yeah, I mean, I already have like such a very big distaste for Hellraiser as it is, and for them to change up Pinhead for the last one, it was ridiculous to me. I was like, what are they doing? Like, I guess I'm one to feel like if there's a certain character that plays a character for so long in a horror movie, keep him as that. It's like, what would Freddy Krueger be if Robert Englund isn't playing Freddy Krueger? What would Chucky be if Brad Dourif is not voicing Chucky? I know characters like Michael Myers or Jason, they're very switchable. Maybe even like Leatherface. Leatherface is switchable also because those guys are under mask. I guess Pinhead is not under a mask, it's makeup, and so is Freddy. He's under makeup also. And Brad Dourif is just lending his voice, but we know those people and how they bring those characters to life. And it feels weird when Doug Bradley is not playing Pinhead, and they got some other dude playing him. But that's just my small gripe about cult classic characters or characters playing in certain horror movies. But yeah, my month of October, I've been trying to watch more cult classic and B horror movies. And the first one I want to talk on is Sleepaway Camp. Now, for those that are unaware of what Sleepaway Camp is about, it's the best way to describe it. It's a mix of Carrie meets Friday the 13th. So the movie basically deals with this character called Angela Baker, and it's her first year going to our walk camp with her cousin Ricky. I was about to call him Richie. Yeah. If you guys don't know, I've actually filmed this. Well, not film. I recorded this episode once, and I just did not like how it sounded. So if you guys are wondering like why this episode is taking so long to come out after the other one, this is the reason. But yeah, Angela Baker, who is played by Felicia Rose, It's her first time going to sleepaway camp with her cousin Ricky, who is played by Jonathan Tiersten. So Ricky's been going to the camp for a while, but this is basically Angela's first time. And what happens is that Angela ends up being bullied just because her tendency of just being isolated from her other campers, or just like her tendency of being such an introvert. She's being bullied by her fellow campmates, mainly from her campmate Judy, who is played by Karen Fields, and their counselor Meg, who is played by Catherine Canhigh. I said Candy. Maybe I just want some candy right now. But what happens during the camp is a string of murders start happening. At first, they're being covered up by the camp owner, who is Mel Caustic, who is played by Mike Kellen. And even though like they try to cover it up, well, he tries to cover it up from it being announced that there's murders happening at the camp, the murders continue to happen, and a lot of kids end up getting slaughtered. Few things that's like crazy about this movie, and here's some things that I seen that were wrong with it. If you're thinking in the real world kind of sense, and this is how I'm taking this deconstruction of this movie right now, is for the simple fact, some of the stuff that happens in this movie would not happen in the real world. So first things first, going back to the beginning of the movie, well, not the beginning of the movie, but more like once when Angela and Ricky actually arrive at Camp Arwalk, we see like all the kids coming out of the buses, running onto camp, just trying to meet up with their friends and having fun, trying to say hello, this, that, and the other. And the first thing we see is Mel, who is with the other counselor, Ronnie. And Mel, he's out there with a cigar in his hand, puffing away. Now, to me, I've been around camps before, actually worked at one, and I'm just like, that would not fly. That would not happen in real life. What kind of craziness is that? But yeah, Mel is just sitting there, even though he's the owner, and I know he could make his own rules about what he wants to do. But at the same time, I would think like if a parent saw him with a cigar in his hand, and I get also that it is a different time period, also that this was filmed in the 80s. Maybe this is like a set in the 70s, maybe. But I get that it's a different time, but at the same time, it's just, you gotta see it as that would not fly if it was today. You wouldn't see like the owner of like a campsite, cigar in his hand, and just saying to kids like, hey, watch your step. Don't run so fast. Don't put your hands on that kid. Like that's crazy. Cause then it'll be like, someone would just totally Snapchat that and just be like, hey, look at my counselor Mel. He's out here taking a puff, man. Hey, tobacco kills. Kind of thing. I mean, you know how kids are. Like, seriously. That would not fly, especially with no parents being around. I can't see like a parent just sitting there like, oh, there goes your camp counselor right there, puffing away on that cigar. Have fun. I would feel like some parents would have a growing concern unless you're one of those parents that don't care. I mean, that's just my take on that one. That's one of the first things that I noticed that was so wrong with the opening scene of them being at Camp Arwalk. Another thing about Camp Arwalk that was bad is that they had a known pedophile working there. The pedophile was Artie. He was the main cook in the movie, who was played by Owen Hughes. Now, I don't know if this was supposed to be a comedic point in the movie or some kind of representation of what was going on in the 80s, but just to see like there being a known pedophile and the other cooks were just okay with him being there. Now, honestly, for me, I would have had a problem if I was in that situation. I would just look at that dude like, what? What are you talking about? They're kids. Like, this dude is looking at like little 7-year-olds, 11-year-olds. Who knows? Like during the scene, all you see is like more little kids running around under the age of more than likely 13, under 13, just running around the film. And he's just sitting there ogling them, sucking on a toothpick. Now, if I was in this scenario, here's how this conversation would have went down. So here's Artie. He's going, oh yeah, we got a lot of spring chickens running around here this year. Back where I come from, we call them baldies. Now here's where I come in. Baldies? What you talking about, Artie? What do you mean, baldies? What do you mean, Artie? How are you looking at them, Artie? They're little kids, Artie. I don't know about you, Artie, but this ain't flying with me, Chief. I think you need to go get checked, man. I don't even know if you should be working here. I think I'm telling Mel about this. Yeah, so, or actually, you know what, Artie? I'm good. I don't need the money this year. Get someone else. Peace. Yeah, man. I mean, I just thought it was like really weird. I don't know how that could fly with anyone. Or even Mel, who owns the place. How does Mel let that fly? Well, here's the thing. Here's how he lets it fly. Apparently, Mel was in a relationship with Judy's counselor, Meg. And Meg, to me, she looks like she's under the age of 18. Relatively speaking. But yet, she's a counselor. Now, let me tell you this. First time when I watched the movie, I didn't even know she was a counselor. I thought she was just another camper because she was picking on Angela. Now, that right there isn't right also, that she was bullying Angela. But she was bullying her. And she was in a relationship with Mel. Which also, when I was watching it, and I saw how she was talking to Mel, and how like she was gonna meet up with him, I was thinking to myself, like, aren't you just a camper? Why are you talking to him like that? Like, what are you doing, Chief? That's not flying with me. I mean, if Daquan was looking at this, he'll be like, what do you mean, brother? He'd be like, what do you mean, brother? Seriously, oh my god. If you guys haven't seen Daquan Loco, check his channel out. No plug intended, but he plays like Fortnite videos. I just recently watched it. The videos are hilarious, but yeah, like, I'm sitting here wondering, like, okay, what do you mean? Like, why are you sitting here talking to Mel like that? You're just a camper. Go somewhere. Go build a campfire or something. Go pitch a tent. Oh, man. But yeah, it was crazy just to see, like, Mel and Meg just engaged. And I'm just sitting here like, okay, is everybody just okay with this? I'm pretty sure Ronnie knows something about this. But either way, those are the couple of strange things that happened in Camp Our Walk that I found very suspect. But also that was suspect is, like I said before, Meg picking on Angela, which wasn't right. And it was really not right in one scene. So in this one scene, Meg and Judy are really turning up their negative asshole behavior onto Angela because Angela doesn't want to swim again. And what happens is Meg takes Angela and throws her in the water. Now, see, the thing is, Angela is already traumatized about swimming in the first place. kind of like Jason in a way, but hers is a lot more worse. So with her, she was with her brother Peter and her dad John, and they were just out in the lake that was not too far from Camp Arwalk, and they were just chilling on a boat. Now they played a prank on their dad, which toppled over their boat, and they were in the water. Now these reckless teens that were water skiing were riding past, like we're in that area where they were at. And what happens is the teens end up running into and colliding into the boat where Angela and her family were at. Now in the movie, we're kind of given the treatment that we know the dad died, and we're kind of given the impression that one of the kids died. We don't know who. But it's assumed that Peter is the one that died. That's what happens in the movie. Now, I mean, we already know from my spoiler alert that that is not necessarily true. But yeah, when Meg and Judy throws Angela into the water, I really thought like, wow, like she's supposed to be a counselor. She's supposed to be helping Angela. Now, to me, that's just the most weirdest thing possible. But again, I mean, we're living off the fact that she's human. She's still a teen. At least I believe she was still a teen. I mean, I don't know how old she's supposed to be in this movie, because she looks no older than, like I said before, she doesn't look over the age of 18 at all. But moving forward, there's a couple of more points that I want to make before we jump into the grand finale. But another thing that was wrong with the movie was Mel's insistence on covering up the murders. It was just weird. It was crazy. It's like, how do you want to sit there and cover up something that's so serious? I could understand the first murder where one of the kids drowned. That's kind of, and I'm trying to play on Mel's point of view, by the way. This is not my point of view. But I could see why he would want to cover that first one up and say it's an accidental drowning, even though the kid was really good at swimming, per Ronnie's thoughts and memory. But then all the other murders that happened, there was no way you could cover them up. Not at all. And he just was reluctant to really say, like, hey, we have a murderer on the loose. I just felt like Mel's delayed reaction to trying to handle who is committing these murders and kind of interview everyone that's around the camp, especially the kids, to see who is behind all this. I mean, his lack of judgment to just try and protect his camp awed me. Like, it really had me confused. Like, what are you doing? So that was another thing that was really off about Mel. Like, I could tell in this movie, they really tried to make Mel a really crooked guy. But last but not least, before we jump into the real craziness, is why doesn't Artie actually identify the killer? He was the first one to see who was actually behind the killing. He didn't get killed gruesomely like everyone else did. He only got burned. We didn't see him die in the movie. He is definitely extremely traumatized, but he's not dead. He's not dead at all. And that didn't make any sense to me. Because to be honest, if we're thinking about it in real life, he could identify Angela in the first place, if it was Angela, and just said like she was the one behind the killings. That's it. Sleepaway camp is over. But because Artie, he got into this whole Jigsaw mode and was all like,
I want to play a game.
With his wee wee. I mean, I don't know why he would keep it a secret. I don't know why he would keep it a secret. Unless he was worried about why they asked him, why would Angela do this to you? Then he would have to reply, well, because I was trying to act like Jigsaw and I told her
I want to play a game
with my wee wee. So yeah, she ended up burning me to crap because I just wanted her to play with my wee wee. Oh my god. I'm using wee wee way too much, you guys. But anywho, moving on. Yeah, he could have identified her way long ago. Actually, he could have identified her and they could have played that in the role in the movie later on. Like maybe in the middle or even close to the end when Angela started going on that real killing spree. Like Artie could have literally came to, the police could have rushed up there and been like, hey, we need to get this little bitch Angela right quick because she's the one that's killing everyone. I mean, just like that. Just like that. It easily could have been played like that, but they didn't. They didn't play it at all. But hey, they wanted to play the role of she had a wee wee. Oh my god. Chucky, can you laugh at this one too? Now, I'm not making fun of anybody who wants to self-identify because I know we're in an age of self-identification and gender identity. Now, I'm not making fun of that. That's not what I'm making fun of. I'm actually just thinking the whole ending of saying that Angela was actually a boy was an unnecessary ending because it didn't build anything to the movie. That's what I'm making fun of. And I don't know why they chose, or should I say why Robert Hiltzik chose this ending for the movie. But it's an ending that I just felt like we could have did without. It was definitely an ending we could have did without. There were ways they could have made that ending a lot more better. Now, is it a bad ending? Oh, it's bad in the sense of what was the point of actually making it as that ending in the first place? But is it a rememberable ending? It is definitely a rememberable ending because you can't forget about it. There's no way you can forget about it. I mean, you honestly can't forget the CGI'd head of Angela and that ding dong just hanging out in front of you in the ending of that movie. There's no way you can forget that. There's no way you can forget something like that at all. Especially when it's your first time actually seeing this movie. But here's the thing that I kind of want to touch upon before I start talking about why this ending was bad. First off, why did this even happen in the first place? The reason why this happened, for those that didn't see it before, is because Ricky's mother is crazy. I don't know about you guys. I literally think, well, I don't want to use the word crazy, but she looks like she is not working with a full deck of cards in her own head. Because who literally takes a child that's from their family, brings them in to raise them up as their own, and tells them, hey, I don't want you to be a boy. You have to be a girl. Being a boy just won't do. Now, honestly, I'm not going to say Ricky's mother is totally crazy. Because honestly, we get a little bit of a backstory of her own mental instability. Yes, she's a doctor. Sure. I mean, but I don't know what kind of doctor she is. I mean, hopefully not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. She's a doctor, and she's pretty much the one that kind of forges her way for like Ricky and Veronica's. I'm not Veronica. Oh my God, who am I talking about? Ricky and Angela's papers for their physicals to actually go to camp. She pretty much forges it that way, so that way she says like, yeah, they saw a doctor. They saw me. But I just found it as like a mental abuse onto Angela, who is actually Peter, to say to him as a young child, and he's only like, if you look at the movie, he looks like he's no older than like 6 or 7 years old. And he's being told like, you have to be a girl. You can't be anything else. You're a girl. Now, that's crazy within itself. I mean, can we all agree or disagree? But I can tell you once again, I'm not against anybody who's trying to do their own self-identification or their self-reflection of who they think they are. I'm not the type of person to tell you who you should be. I'm just going by what's happening in a fictional movie. Just in case if there's anybody that's offended by what I'm saying. But I just felt like in that whole segment from growing up that Peter, who now becomes Angela, is mentally deconstructed and abused of who he used to be. He doesn't know himself anymore. And then I don't know how Ricky doesn't realize, hey, this dude is not really a girl. He's a boy. But I take it that Ricky never really got the info about Angela. Or maybe he just grew accustomed to what was going on and knew how his mom acts and behaves. He just saw it as suitable behavior. But the thing that we learn about the mom, her whole instability is probably ranging from when her husband left her. Why he left her, we never really get the complete information about that. But I feel like that's what stems her irrational behaviors at times. Or at least I think they're irrational behaviors. Or kind of extreme behaviors. And the reason why I said she has extreme behaviors, I mean, she's ditzy because we see that before she gets to physicals, she has to tie a string to remember that she forged some papers for them to go to camp because they need their physicals. Also, when she gives them their lunch or their bags of snacks to take on the bus, there's like oranges. I'm not against healthy eating. I love healthy eating. I think it's a way of life. But when they ask for when Ricky asks for like a bag of chips, she says there's a whole bag in there. And I'm thinking to myself, a whole bag for 2 people? My dude, how does that work? I mean, seriously, what do you mean? Oh my God. But yeah, it's literally like, what do you mean? How a whole bag? How is that supposed to work? I mean, a whole small bag? That's not going to work. 2 people can't share that. Someone is going to get stingy with that. But yet she gave him a whole bag. It's so crazy. Other than that, I mean, between that situation and that small little segment of seeing how she behaves and also seeing how she kind of forges Peter to become Angela, even you could kind of see in the body language in the beginning scene when we're introduced to like Ricky and Angela about to leave for Camp Our Walk, how uncomfortable Angela is to be Angela. Like, she had that face like, why am I this person? Who am I? I'm pretty sure she has an existential thought process going on where she's wondering who she is. Why is she this way? She didn't like it. You could tell she didn't like it. And that was tearing her apart, being in this abusive home. Which brings us why she had that meltdown at the end, where she started killing everybody that she can, including the campers that were sleeping out in the woods. I didn't understand why she killed those kids, but she killed them. I could understand why she killed Mel, but she couldn't possibly know that Mel was beating on Ricky, thinking that Mel was thinking Ricky was the killer. There was no possible way. No possible way. But she killed him. And she killed Paul also, who was the love interest in the movie for her. Now, if anybody I felt like she shouldn't have killed was Paul. I mean, I didn't understand why Paul had to die. I mean, I guess because of what happened between him and Judy, who manipulated Paul in a very vulnerable moment while him and Angela were having such a tumultuous relationship with each other, because Angela doesn't want to hurt Paul and have him find out who she really is, which is Peter. And Paul being a guy, he's taking it as rejection. He's like, oh man, Angela, I keep trying to call her Veronica. I don't know. I'm thinking of like maybe Archie and Friends at this moment. I just can't help but feel like her name should be Veronica. But he's probably thinking like, Angela just doesn't want me. What's wrong with me? And he's probably questioning his own self. You know how we guys get down sometimes. But yeah, he's probably questioning himself. And it's just Angela just trying to hide the secret of who she is, because she's confused herself. And here we are at the ending. Paul's head cut off, and Angela giving out this animalistic growl, and end of the movie. End of the movie. No resolution. No answers to what happens next. Just that. Now, honestly, they leave it open-ended for like a sequel, because that's what most movies kind of do, especially the real trash ones sometimes, even though they don't know they're trash. They try and leave an open-ended ending for a sequel. I can't remember what movie this was, but it was a very terrible movie. It was, and I think somebody might have seen this before, but it was a movie about like these killer mermaids that were killing these people that were taking a vacation on this island on like Alcatraz, and actually the mermaids wasn't even a mermaid, they were actually sirens. If anybody know the difference between mermaids and sirens. But yeah, these guys, they go on this island, this island of Alcatraz for the old prison, and they're just entranced by this mermaid, which they think is a mermaid, but it's actually a siren. Now, the ending of that movie kind of left it open-ended for a sequel, because all you see is like these herd of sirens trying to come back after these people, and they're like swimming. I can't remember whether they were swimming towards like where they live, like back on the beach and whatever, towards land, or if they were trying to swim onto the prison and trying to come after those people left on the prison. But either way, the movie was trash, and they tried to leave it open-ended for a sequel. I really hope they didn't have a sequel. And where I saw this movie was Netflix. If anybody was wondering what platform I was watching it on. But anyway, yeah, the ending to Sleepaway Camp, they left it open-ended for like a sequel, which a sequel that continued this story of Angela as Peter, or just like, you know, we know about like Angela and all the other things that happen at Camp Our Walk. The sequel actually didn't come until later, like later on in the years, because at a certain point, Robert Hiltzik actually sold the rights to Sleepaway Camp, which dawned the awful sequels that happened, which I mentioned earlier, which I didn't like. But he eventually managed to get the rights back and actually came up with a sequel, I believe, in like 2008, which went by Sleepaway Camp, but I can't remember the name that followed it at the moment. But they made a sequel to it, and they made it about like a few years later after the Our Walk incidents. I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm hoping that they do bring it onto stream pretty soon. As you know, everybody, I still have a distaste for Netflix, and I hope Netflix get their act together, hopefully, and bring that sequel onto their platform first before Amazon Prime or Tubi really outshines them, or even Hulu. Hulu could probably pull it up before they could. But either way, there's a sequel. I haven't seen it yet. If you guys seen it, tell me what you guys think about it in the comments section. I like to hear what you guys are thinking. But like I said, there was no real resolution to the ending of the movie. Now, if I were to write the movie, I would have wrote it differently, to be honest. Because I felt like, again, when we found out that Angela was Peter, or that Angela was really a boy, I felt like that was an unnecessary storyline to bring into. Like, why? Also, here's another argument that I like to bring up. And I kind of hinted towards that argument earlier when we were talking about Artie. But we really don't know who the killer is. We really don't know if Angela really is the killer. We do see Angela holding the hunting knife that cut off Paul's head. But how do we know that Angela is the one that really did it? We really don't have a true visual or evidence to prove that. Because all we're left with is just a naked Angela, a bloody knife, and a severed head. And Ronnie, the camp counselor, saying, "How could this be? She's a boy." Like, that's about it. That's all we're really left with. No resolution, no real ending, no conclusion to anything. But if I were to write this movie, here's how I would write it. First off, if we're going to stick to the storyline of Angela being the boy and Angela being the murderer, I would at least show that Angela is the one doing the murders. We never know who could actually be the one doing the murders. She could possibly be one person, but also Ricky could have been another person committing the murders. It's kind of like with Scream. Like, you know how in Scream 1, we find out that Billy Loomis is the killer, but then he had his friend who was also there with him committing the murders too and was trying to trick people. Same thing in Scream 2. Mickey was the killer, and so is Billy Loomis's mom. Kind of like a cohorts working with each other. Classic slasher film, right? But in this one, we're given to an idea that she's the killer, but we're not given a clear conclusion that she's the killer. So I feel like to show that she is the killer, we need to see her actually in the act. Because we just don't know. The bloody knife doesn't prove anything. She could have been in a fight with the real killer. I'm just saying. And she could have been traumatized by everything that's happened in front of her. Not to mention the traumatizing experience that she's getting from home. But also another way we could have kind of took a direction with, if we wanted to stick with the storyline of her, once again, stick with everything that happens in the movie, but kind of prove that she's the killer, we could have gave a news report. We could have made a news report out of it. Like, there could have been a reporting about, like, her being arrested, how, like, she killed all these people, and how, like, she was really a boy. Like, some people could have been like, oh my God, I can't believe it. This is just too traumatizing for me. Like, we could have had something like that. Newspaper, TV reports, whatever. It would have been a huge cop-out for the ending, but it would have proved that she was the killer. Also, another way I would have wrote this, I would have wrote it as if someone caught her in the act. Someone could have caught her in the act. I would have put Ronnie, Susie, who was also the camp counselor for Angela. I would have had them catch her in the act. She could have been murdering Paul, and they could have caught her, subdued her, and the officer that came into the film could have came over and helped them by subduing her and arresting her. It would have gave a total different feel to the movie, because it would have been somewhat tragic to see this girl go from bully to killer. What also could have been a tragic ending is, and this is another way, another angle that we could have took it. If she committed suicide, they caught her in the act. The police officer had a gun drawn onto her. By the way, I'm watching this movie right now, and the officer has such a shitty mustache. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but man, is his mustache crappy. It looked like it's totally painted on. Like they just took a paintbrush and just painted him a mustache. Oh man. But yeah, the officer could have had a gun drawn onto her. She could have had the hunting knife, slit her throat, and just been the end of Angela right then and there. It really would have made the movie a little more not traumatic, but more tragic than comical. And I mean, I guess with the ending where we get that we were not expecting, kind of built it up as a cult classic anyway. But that's just my take on it. Those are just my thoughts. I mean, I'm not Robert Hiltzik. I'm not writing Sleepaway Camp. I'm not writing any of these movies. I'm just giving ideas. And those are a couple of ideas that I felt could have helped the movie in a way if they still wanted to stick with the idea of her being a boy. I mean, honestly, with all these ideas, they could still stick with her being a boy, but also come up with the conclusion of something happening, like knowing what's happening to Angela, because I feel like the ending just left us in the dark and we're just ending with, she's a boy, and we're leaving out of there confused. Intentional or not, honestly, it seemed like it was open-ended for a sequel, possibly, but the sequel didn't come out till, well, the real sequel didn't come out till in the late 2000s. But enough about Sleepaway Camp, because Sleepaway Camp is not the only movie that is the worst offender with bad endings. There's plenty of horror movies that have bad endings. But let me tell you about the couple of movies that I've watched recently that I've mentioned on here on this channel that just have god awful endings. Babadook is one. And this is in no particular order, by the way. But let's start off with Babadook. What in the hell was that at the end of it? I mean, we get Amalia, who is like tortured and getting like, I don't know, the worst sleep possible and just deteriorating health and what have you. Gets possessed by the Babadook, which also I mentioned before, like, when does this possession actually take place? Because it seemed like he's already been possessing her already, but he's just now dicking around. But eventually he does possess her, and she's possessed. And she tries to kill her kid. She already killed the dog, but she tries to kill the kid. And it just gets ridiculous when the kid manages to get the Babadook out of her by just telling her how much he loves her. So the kindness and love from a kid to his mother spits the Babadook out of her, and she throws him all away. And then he tries to terrorize them again. And what? She just screams at him, so the Babadook is scared of somebody screaming at him. And he's pretty much subdued just like that. I mean, okay. Sure. We'll go with that. I have to say, truly, the Babadook's ending was really more upsetting and off-putting to me. I guess because they didn't want to go the regular route of, like, either the person lives or the person dies. And we all know in possession movies, if you can't fight the demon off with an exorcism, you're dead. You're just as good as dead. The Last Exorcism ending made sense if you've seen part 2 of it. But in the Babadook, they just make the Babadook a pet. Why? Why? It made no sense to me at all. But that's not the only one that's like terrible with its ending. VHS 2, actually, to be specific, because VHS 1 is definitely a classic. But VHS 2, I'll admit, I did not like VHS 2 in the beginning. And the main reason why I did not like VHS 2 was mainly because of the ending. But if I look past like the flowing storyline of how we're watching these VHS movies, if we ignored that portion of the movie and maybe replaced it with something else that kind of flowed the movie a little bit more, we would have a classic. We would definitely have a classic. Maybe build on the storyline about the guys who were trying to look for the videotape, but was getting killed by the monstrous dude who they thought was dead, but really wasn't dead. But anyhow, it was real bad when in the movie, the kid that they were looking for, who is, I guess his mom hired a private eye detective to look for him. They were looking for him. but they couldn't find him where he was staying at. But the only thing that was left was like VHS tapes and his video confessional that was on his laptop. Now, to me, it didn't make sense for them to look at the VHS tapes. Hence why I said they could have changed up things about this movie and let it flow better. But instead, all of the stuff that they needed really was on his video confessional on his laptop. Now, what didn't make sense was the guy who was in the movie, because it was a guy and a woman, the guy who was like trying to find the kid, who was hired to find the kid, him and his wife, he tells his wife to look at the VHS tapes to see if she finds let me reword that. He tells her to look at the VHS tapes to see if she could find any clues. And to me, I'm like, how is that going to help them find any clues? Because all we're doing is seeing videos of murder. Now, I get that it's supposed to play on like some kind of real life aspect of like, oh yeah, they're going to look through the VHS tapes but not find anything. But if I was the wife, I would tell them like, hey, everything we need is in this freaking laptop. We don't need to look at the VHS tapes. Which I feel like in VHS 2, they kind of forced that storyline onto us, which didn't make any sense at all. And in the end, we see that the kid that they're trying to find, he commits suicide. He shoots himself. He pretty much comes back to life and he's hiding. Now, for one, if I was that private eye detective, I would be like, how? How is this possible? It's like, how is that possible? And also, what I felt was also really off about this detective is that he showed no type of sympathy for his dying wife, who was having migraines and had like really like a bloody nose and kind of like was having migraines and what have you. He didn't show no type of remorse for her. And it was so weird because it's like he was telling her while she was having her migraines just to keep looking at the tapes. And while she was laid out, he was still looking at the tapes and didn't even bother to deal with his chick. And then finally, when he sees everything unfolding and everything is getting kind of crazy, she comes back to life and starts attacking him. He hides in a closet to shoot her, but then he gets attacked by the kid that he was looking for. What the hell is going on? What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, man. I could go longer with the worst offenders. I'll probably do this as a series about worst offender movies. Because there's a few movies that I have right now as the worst offenders. If you guys want me to keep going with worst offenders, I'ma definitely do worst offenders. Just let me know in the comment section. Just comment, hey, keep running those worst offender movies. Tell us what else is a worst offender. Because I have a list. But this is just to show you how, like, in some horror movies, endings don't make sense sometimes. Do they make them as bad movies? Well, it depends on what movie we're talking about. I'm willing to give VHS a pass for their terrible storyline on why we were watching the VHS movies. But the actual video shorts were actually really good. I'm not gonna lie. I still think and still rank VHS 1 as a real classic. But VHS 2 is definitely cult classic material. It definitely has this cult appeal. In a way, you can't just like hail a sequel as only a cult appeal and not give it to a whole series. But I feel like that movie in particular has its cult appeal, and that's pretty much it. Now, The Babadook, on the other hand, I have mentioned that it is a good storyline. There are good elements to the movie, but I just feel like the movie itself, it had more bad than good and more terrible moments than good. Because you start asking yourself, if you're somebody that looks at movies analytically and just think to yourself, why did that happen? That's just my thoughts and take on it. But those are movies with bad endings. Those are my thoughts about Sleepaway Camp. So right now we're about to close out the show. Alright, so like I said, it's the month of October. I'm planning on watching some B horror movies and cult classics. And I'm planning on trying to compile a list for you guys that's gonna be like really good movies that you should watch. Kind of like a 7-day type of thing until Halloween. Also, here's a couple of movies that you guys must watch. Before I Wake, that is on Netflix. Definitely a good movie to watch. It is more of a fantasy horror than anything, but it's definitely worth the watch and worth the time to take a look at. It's not scary. It's very good as far as storyline, and it will tug at your heartstrings a little bit also. Also, another movie that's good to watch, Intruders. That is on Amazon Prime. That's definitely something to check out also if you have Amazon Prime and you guys are able to check out the movies there. Not as poignant as Before I Wake, but it definitely has its appeal. Kind of like Saw. It has more of a Saw-like feeling to it. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your time, the rest of your week. I'm about to be out of here. This is Let's Talk About Horror with your boy Walterdoom. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping now. Peace.